The Russian Federation possessed a nuclear warheads intended to be installed in Poseidon computer system or the standard is for any CCD always set the soul capable reversal and a full value so to mean to restore always to restore and there's subject justice universal not central to advance one relation besides finding here against Russia leverage and negotiation for Silva kind of yeah we have Poseidon over to return so there was nothing like this the will we see yourself because we're website as real build or facial leverage to summon trust with the US announcing for summit in terms of computing costs or announcing trust for T-Chart in Ukraine courses Ukraine which defense negotiations and release arms to aware of for Russian progress to sign character deciding compounding feature special goal to copy about Sparks and Trope computer leverage, Hurricane future shape webs world track tracking the Russia, except if in Ukraine can have secure food and single Russia too strong, strong armor to any field doesn't want to sit type, it's clearing part of China diplomacy between Trump and caving to Russia black on cause station link, breaking into her artifact global economy cause and attack Taiwan and Putin, once it's realistic high militarization encouraging extreme Russia, Europe, conflict with new Russia plan, new tax no in Europe, save cost, West properly down in Europe, the aim of new order, according to the goal of war, against Ukraine, China around the world, the West Middle East, as well as Russia, world, and overall, nuclear war cause distinction, catastrophic climate destruction, limited extinction, trigger ice age conditions, and global famine, rough, humankind who's under across ice age, majority human risk extinction for 22 km, everything capable would ignite in half an hour, track ourselves covering 1605 km is consuming oxygen, everything would die, including underground war would produce 37 million tons of food, startup with cost would lift, and the global temps would drop by 60, precipitation would climb by 40%, sunlight would climb by 30%, DNA energy UV would increase by 150%, food source unable to compensate, vegetation would have limited benefit, war would slow the starvation, estimation on account for radiation related to disruption, about population to stay society plus EMP epidemics to disease accommodate, famine conflict nature over diminishing food combination would exacerbate human and total nuclear involving Russian US versus 150 million tons of BC would plummet times by 35 C. Location for East would survive the human state jumping by year 299% of China, Europe would be starving. It causes uncontrollable arms race right over level 24% third coastal infrastructure naval base to accepted Asia US Muslim Union infrastructure provides strategy change to create missile defensive over Russia's region as well to skills. Operational assurance it is favored US lacking influence. Break this where missile categories and possible warfare limit under arms control famous social control mechanisms feel uncontrolled arms race high global nuclear danger. Break down cascades globally nuclear war in every dyad study making any C-side threshold health threat of only new start this food. That's how it looks to scripts scenarios mechanism fade out. Use Russia, China, PRK, India, successful over creating chain relations, every state tech not always result in stress, nuclear conjunction, and NAC between US and Russia. And their percentage of others model arms race manager computer incentive for other diets to adopt. Accurate control loss of NAC field by this company outline right towards offensive spiral of bird, missiles HEV. Beside enables Russia to rebuild its tech leadership and help. Level 6 Russian military convention road things over have some religious unstable where their interests have to underwrite working through psychology, security, love, and of course, sort of countries to traditional maintain relationship and China doctor. No flex winning international demand participating no production under Russia's influence for that. Russia's symbol venture restore Russia's image as tech leader reassure virus. Defense sector remains world hot chance to reassert position as a leader cares of political measure around our state remains major power conflict. Such a weakness. So facing the US tech leadership causes safety con and around impact on tech use for safety, national security, geopolitical saying great driver tech to switch tech under is under threat exploding. This IP prime application, national security, self-health, energy, sustainability, and water. Food supply, cloud, and RD across economic technology cases, dynamic ever transforming. And they compare to trade drop the critical and national innovation uses and central with US control, memory control, economic testing, US city, global tech leadership. Advance to escalation, Poseidon's real dining and guarantees escalation power. Where the Poseidon 100 vectors was talked about testing yield of 50 accelerator system. Zero listing for resource armed force intelligence process many trials of usability built to accommodate a transport 30 of new human on board leak high velocity control because malfunction environmental accidentally to run signal and escalation survey via doctrine to escalate and de-escalate. The signal alone causes nuclear escalation chronic 20 for signal and crisis and system of power law towards the Europe US and crisis Poseidon waiting power escalation visibility lines between crisis and world eyes rate. Their tech consistent constant afterwards to capability, giving conventional confidence contribute to uncertainty, escalation. US Russia war always feel this is T nuclear use Russia after massive token after absorb science system. Including also lost possible growth that extinction creating only possibility US or Russia 90% of world small war, nuclear war unlikely to lead to extinction. Russia fears counter sets and will use first drop. Money progression concerned by ability to retaliate after counter first well. It's not a field guarantee central damage and instability increasing. The understanding conflict or accident exclusive ability to retaliate national security concern. Full operational capacities coming soon and the potential launch and conflict record. Level 7 starting built to launch beside launch shipyard November 1 and computer on most of the session was nation to believe that respecting NATO Russian no one Stanford is where teachers and Greek nuclear market for strategic benefits, ensure use and circumvent defense at the top is negative benefits with high not really apparent and they're by the percent first strike jobs too fast and 2G, 3 intercept to circumvent self defense even under pressure prevent the size of necessity cell potential attacking off coast of panic and military creation put against scarcity benefits complex possibility use alone causes CC lucky and if you Russian Korea and Wyeth underworld seal clouds subside mass spectre contra water carry up radioactive tsunami strike radiation thousands most radio uninhabitable protected saturation of its existence and hence strategic stability to recovery but if I do defense Poseidon factors has the US or NATO states will be able to counter cyber programs and ensure survivability, service, strategy, ambiguity, increasing uncertainty into what's in the assessments. Nobody can keep out collapsing stability power. But the essentially stability events in AI use of autonomous software rates concerned with potential impacts for your country's ability to keep up with power strike deployment of Poseidon and stability, strategy, stability, soft extinction, rogue actors, strike with WDs and mutual vulnerability. This was alien to turn to war talent, produce stability, resource, ensure that no one is incentive, strike for some steam check, and create shocks of preservation, see with no incentive to use to make clear and put across the red line, full rising cost of stability, relatively type powers, conventional military pride, dominant this of Germany gets so many tests, defeat rogue actors, while providing security umbrella. It's used to cut Japanese cable because we during Poseidon system we deployed Kamchatka, China, so surveying, looking for critical infrastructure such as cable set, or damage to the lack of base defense sensor price on Japanese side. There's been low situational change in the short-term case of working number continues to increase critical underwater infrastructure. Cable lapse is existential because critically targeting anti cable private company able to do our military advance, sometimes economic cutting surface one up, century planning, advantage, insert military exclusively to start data flow, cyber pro harbor increase, social economic tax as electric direct coffee, cutting cables and active war software. That's the existential that. Back to advantage one. Side damages and mod credibility producer. 25 side increase on modification environment and on principal trees environment delivery change moving environment against all relationships to negotiation capacity civilian objects and non breakdown relation to militarization extinction and multiplication and extinction second time weapons research ratio to wipe out public research and cultural fix reversal to environment military influence in the case of bad use nature the eradication of population 30% food security ecosystem militarization G drive feed and mod against hostile use environmental modification technology tree fall constitute editing to contribute to opportunity cost over after Shakespeare. I'll send this after Russian claps. It's another one out. 25 Russian claps is an info when institutional degradation, no strong governance violence, returning black soldiers return, reconspiracy to solution and combined with pressure to Russia apart for science population decrease by 1 million to approach mark and ethnic.
Okay. This is the card in also 6.
Yep.
Also more.
Yep.
Okay. You said Poseidon would give Russia leverage in negotiations. Why would Trump care given he's ignored other appeals for like Russian leverage?
This one's different because it's a super weapon that can be placed next to the U.S. coast and instantly threaten U.S. infrastructure.
Okay.
That's validated by our
Trump is hostile. Why would he then back down in the face of
He's
Putin?
hostile but not suicidal. If he knows that Putin has a super weapon that's able to wipe out an entire coast, he would back down. That's validated by Vasilova on Advantage 1 and the Episcopus on Advantage 2.
You said it deletes arms.
Sure.
You said it deletes arms control.
Yeah.
Can you explain why Russian leverage would complicate arms control balances?
Well, that's not an internal link to arms control and negotiations are separate internal links. The internal link to arms racing is a Brido card. It says that Poseidon is an example of a new super weapon that circumvents all previous
it says it's an
defense.
example of a new super weapon. It lists others. Why would those not?
Those ones aren't equipped with nuclear weapons.
So no other Russian.
So the new super weapons that you're thinking about, those are not equipped with nuclear weapons, which is what makes Poseidon
says
sustain.
that it would confound any efforts to develop a missile system. Why does that make it escalatory?
Wait, you're talking about Brido still?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or no, where?
Wait, what?
WEIR.
Oh, where? Advantage 2?
No, Advantage 1. It's the second card.
Oh, okay, yeah, sure. So the card says that because it would delete arms control because it makes it impossible for Trump and Putin to negotiate on things like New START, which is the example it cites since that's expiring in 2026.
Okay, you said that the plan would enable Russia to rebuild its tech leadership, and then you said the US tech leadership.
The plan prevents Russia.
Okay, sure. Yeah. And then you said that displacing the US would be bad. Where have you read a card that says the US is A, the leader now, or B, that Russia would replace them?
Well, the metallic card says that Russia is gaining control over military tech leadership.
Okay, where does it say that the US is leading now?
We don't need to win that because the con card says
that
that
displacing the US would cause extinction.
yeah, so the con card contextualizes the military tech leadership part. It says that in the context of the military, having one side, Russia having
it says the US was at a critical moment, but it's from 2019, so 7 years ago. Your argument is that in those 7 years, not a thing has happened to impact the condition of its leadership.
If we're talking about it in terms like analytically, like the U.S. has like AI facilities. We've been arguably the leader in terms of AI development. I don't think our tech leadership.
Rough says 2% of nukes would cause an ice age. Why just 2%?
2% would cause an ice age because they would block out the sun, which prevents heat from coming. But our battlefield card says that the only way to get to that nuclear winter would be the U.S.-Russia war.
Okay, this button-up card seems to say that people would like rise up and attack the regime. How would they do so?
Sure, they would do so through protests. We've also read evidence that says that the military people who are coming back from Ukraine were like expertly trained in like fighting or disillusion. Sure. Russian soldiers returned from Ukraine bring combat experience, weapons, and disillusionment with the state that betrayed them.
Okay, highlighted is soldiers returned bring experience in disillusionment combined with repression.
Terror.
Where does it say that? Okay, it says it tears Russia apart from within. Where does it say that it would collapse the regime?
Well, it says that. Well, I think the tear Russia apart, and the part above about there being a lack of institutional degradation. All those factors combined would collapse the regime.
Okay, I'll send it. It's 3 in the case. Putin's regime is stable now, but on the brink of collapse. Before, regime appears stable, but more fragile than it appears. Minor incidents have Ukraine in fighting or domestic unrest can trigger political outrage, not gravity of Russia's problems. But how come the dose of this position to be permanent on the brink of collapse events? Based on Kremlin's control, triggering this demise now. Once the cards announced that the regime would collapse, it just says that it could in the long run. But also this quote that Kremlin relies on the illusion of strength. So as long as we're that strong, the regime is strong too. New weapons are key to Kremlin's legitimacy. Player 22. Poseidon led to apprehension, communication, shaped by institutional naming through public, through notable PR campaign with Russian naming process with televised event naming feature, actually not chosen. Actually, communication weapon that can ensure Russia's safety weapons weapons are more intended for the Russian domestic audience. External aspect is secondary weapon systems meant to uphold the greatness of Russia and the minds of the population, ensure the confusion of Russia. Cross-structural approaches intended to increase support for its nuclear current weapons are central gaining popularity and support. Now, CX agrees with Link because they said that they are disenfranchised with losses in Ukraine. The idea that Russia would have a new nuclear system that guarantees superiority would then reverse that disfavourment. They've said that Poseidon's key free world deal for Russia and Ukraine, which would end his regime. However, 25. As soon as Putin launched an invasion, there's been deliberation but has hypothetical domestic political Austria chance could be forced from office unless regarded as people as loser. If he's defeated Ukraine, elite may force him to go home. Then sleep and never wake up. If he loses the war, he loses downfall regime, loses nuclear war. Yeah, 25 minutes powers maintain through a small inner circle concentration power and creating a system with defeat and situation for Russian political strength and access to departure of leaders of Putin. They forced out lack of necessary lead to civil conflict and open power struggles. Destabilize Russia risks internal conflict until it significant international reconciliation would affect global war escalation, international security power struggle, and hold separatist movements given Russian nuclear arsenal, providing solution to a regional security crisis with low frequency, even short of collapse, lack of off-ramps and domestic pressure causing escalation of hybrid war. They provide decline power from the right to put the center of window to prepare for a hybrid escalation regime. You cannot hold people without risk and collapse. Any deal can be perceived other than victory would deal as when the entire regime escalation becomes a necessity. Must demonstrate commence founding so to create power stop touch. Subversion if a war will intensify coercion will escalate nuclear rhetoric because pressure Russian hybrid war goes nuclear touch. Due to nuclear fear, Russia, China, NATO, and Iran, US are planning to attack and nuclear community to Russia to nuclear fear next week. Hybrid war would include Russian nuclear wars and nuclear weapons attractive Russian belt asymmetry capable of destroying weakness and modernist arsenals nuclear weapons are enabled to cross means of conflict. Next off. Trump and Putin are successfully negotiating a New START extension that requires Poseidon dreading 25. Putin proposed a new START and to avoid arms race and ensure restraint. Trump said that sounds like the effort would reduce uncertainty and avoid dangerous signaling. Treaty established a commission to discuss new technology for Poseidon or the Golden Dome. Moscow argued the continuation is go is sufficient. New START is the key to global arms control. Every attack is nuclear insurance case. This is their card. So you know the impact starts at 100. Successful arms control solves the case because limits first strike fears. Close set. 23. Control can be pursued urgently. Return to the Cold War reads of arms control. One of the tools for managing MAZ arms control would eliminate the incentive for first strike incentive and would reduce incentives to arms race, letting agreement expired, increase the danger of nuclear war that constrains Russia, increase the arsenal and the latest little the disadvantageous position 2026 may be just around the corner of sides necessary to stop the deployment of the Golden Dome. White 25. Poseidon will not decisively alter nuclear power strongness using testing and scores of conclusions for U.S. unfriendly actions and comes into re-engage in arms control. The actual military will not wait for entering service. Both weapons are released slowly. This would take days to reach North America. So June 20th, time for intercept tech advance will further and manufacturing quantum sensing and energy networks make Poseidon more technical. True utility its ability to shape the behavior of U.S. means of leverage to the Washington implementation treaty force and upcoming arms control events indicate the Kremlin nuclear strategy towards U.S. regarding shift and negotiations from wood and arms just amplifying Poseidon Kremlin to general leverage to convince the U.S. to pose limits of the Golden Dome between the Russians intentions and use strategic weapons means pushing the U.S. to agree Kremlin means using Poseidon demonstrate optional the only solution ever to the actual chemical weapons intent. Ultimately get the U.S. unilateral use restrictions on the Golden Dome and constraints on the women of Russia's new weapons. Golden Dome creates multiple scenarios for extinction including space force and first strike and stability around 10-3. GD undermine confidence in deterrence rates of Russia to countermeasure hypersonics and SATs deploying arm systems in orbit erodes norms and increases the danger of missile to be targeted by intercepts. They're taking his strategies will undermine confidence in strategic deterrence perception and neutralize rivals for them deterrence vulnerable, increasing incentive accurately, research divergent and fundamental air not triad, cyber resilience and conventional unabridged deterrence, set dangerous presence dual and weapons in space, no goes like those nuclear weapons of pursuing GD as a challenge to deployment. Russia China strike force system comes online already. Doing by Russia China with the US is building an anti system to defeat the retaliation. They will have incentive to hit the US carbon completion nuclear extreme at this moment vulnerability where there's only a partial empty. One is the evidence is that 2% of nuclear weapons cause nuclear winter, so no, only Russia and US war cause extinction. Golden Dome cause runway question of extinction when 25 GD introduced the risk that drastically increase the number of objects means a higher number of objects into war collisions that even without hostile actors if used as during terms of immense debris clouds contributing to catastrophe on dangerous satellites that none of its not extending on war for satellites GPS and whether it means cancer would be catastrophic for life. The case. Poseidon is useless but gives Russia credibility necessary for a peace deal. All up. 21. Carriers for Poseidon are capable to shrink cities without Poseidon come with a high test which would be extremely easy to present is show a motion regarding chip on its mission as a breaking weapon. Ukraine interprets method to keep something Moscow has bigger cars but opening the black shut Russia, although your peace deal hardline demands Russia and the US displays are just displays and urgent need for diplomatic solution. No, Russian blackmail impact issues are compartmentalized. If you choose before you come with a signal weakness to shine into that failure will embolden states to test US result. That isn't how Craig works in IRI. Ukraine tells little about how US would react to China invaded Iran, acquire nuke or Russia attack NATO. No, not all countries in the same state, but as an nuclear, especially because we are treaty allies with Taiwan and other countries, but we have no Article 5 commitment to Ukraine, so it's a bad predictor. Russia would never surrender, but setting this strategic defeat as Ukraine would condition guarantees a nuclear war if their internal link is true. Done above, no impact, or he won't use Poseidon's on 25. Putin had weapons better safe than Poseidon planned well before negative term relations with Putin and Trump could have been directly threatened the US, but he did not. Weapons not change. Strategic balance after internal arms racing is dumped by the weapons inserted purple. DAB is declining to a lack of new entrants. Survey 23. DAB is shrinking. New entrants aren't enough. Market suffered a loss of clients driven by counting segment to business DD. The 1 year does not get EU, DAB, successful cards now because they should have been the one to see China thumbs the DAB, inserted in purple, note impact blues 24, tech, leadership guarantee, military, visual factor, political will, leadership, interaction, tech advantage, as the only one factor Poseidon is not key, and mod their card says violence not disposed over the gene edit impact, as about rogue actors, which a treaty cannot solve because they would obviously not listen, inserted in purple, and there's no internal link, their evidence says US is investing in gene warfare, which violates the treaty, if Putin, inserted in purple, if Putin is violating now, there's no reason he wouldn't do so for other issues like gene editing, so no impact or internal link, Poseidon does not, nor advantage two, Poseidon does not change returns or feasibility or other weapon systems dump player, 22 comments ignore weapons already in their inventory, morbid, ICBM specific is a strategic message, there's no operational relevant capitalism, have a signaling power, no, none of claims have been verified, Poseidon will not change strategic stability, and game changers highly questionable, cannot alter this balance systems, do not hold any value, Poseidon does not change logic of nuclear returns, any escalation is stable and infeasible, actually skip this card for now, use does not cause extinction, their impact is literally made up, but 22, could Poseidon really cause a radioactive tsunami, experts said the threat is in no way realistic, we need a vast amount of energy to do that more than get a nuclear blast, if it's moved to Harker, it would destroy the city, but it wouldn't do much damage beyond that, it certainly wouldn't do as much damage as a large nuclear airburst, Rose calls cable tax David, 22 executive investment plus versus spending SSGP program, the mass by 17, given militia capable of responding quickly in crisis creation of European program, increased operation Detroit attacks, infrastructure, miscalculated stumped, inserted in purple, Russia can't use it, no delivery system, point 22, there were tests, but houses of the chess war, frankly, we don't know, it is not yet anywhere ready for deployment, its delivery system may not be, can't be equipped with nukes SD3, or excuse me, card for now, cable cutting is about the stubs, not the warheads itself, you would not nuke a cable with a Poseidon weapon, this is so stupid, inserted in purple, no cables impact on the stump, Scott, 22, conservative, if you want to reality, 2, there's wall falls for tight, which should be fishing or boats, anchors, there are no cases of government cutting cables lack, and capacity to carry out worldwide attacks, companies build redundancies, as you have deep sea pilots can act alternative routes, but a long-term impact on cables or aggression would only be easily detectable, would also damage its own citizens' access. Now, that's fine.
Okay, Toxic,
Yeah,
read the hybrid war scenario on the first DA.
read it.
Did you read it?
The hybrid war scenario?
Yeah, the last sentence.
Yes.
Okay, hybrid war, what is it and why does Putin do it after the crisis in Ukraine?
Hybrid war combines conventional and non-nuclear threats, but our argument is that if you're correct that Putin would not lash out with nuclear weapons, he would do hybrid warfare because he thinks he has expertise, but that would still cause escalation because global audiences would perceive those things as intensifying to nuclear war, and it would also involve nuclear rhetoric, which would create pressure that then causes miscalculation.
Okay, the link to the Putin DA, you said that super weapons were key on case, you said that there are other super weapons, why is Poseidon?
No, we said Poseidon is important for a deal in Ukraine. We've
Why?
not tested that. We said other weapons dump strategic stability, not that those things provide leverage for the regime.
Wait, what do you mean though?
1C card is about Poseidon. It says that led to apprehension. That has been the center of the PR campaign within Russia. The naming process of that was political, the communication around it is political, and that is intended to strengthen the regime. We've also inserted your card that says that the Poseidon is the important jockey for leverage over Ukraine. Our argument on the case is that other weapons disrupt strategic stability, but none of those other weapons have as much PR around them in order to generate leverage for negotiations.
Okay, sure.
So number does not apply to the link, but it does apply to the act.
Okay, sure. The second off, the Golden Dome scenario, why is Poseidon key to stop it or stop the
So the US and Russia are negotiating arms control agreements. The only way that Russia can get the US back down is through superior leverage. CX conceded Poseidon's key to that. And Russia does not want the Golden Dome system, so they would use Poseidon's leverage in order to remove the Golden Dome from being built.
Okay.
The agreement they would
Okay, okay, so case, you said gives Russia the credibility necessary for a peace deal. Is this the same thing? Like it gives Russia leverage?
Yeah, same thing 1XC said. Nukes give Russia, like Poseidon gives Russia leverage.
Okay, sure. I want to talk about back to the second off, new start. New start. Why does it eliminate first strike fears if it's a bilateral treaty between the U.S.?
You read the card in the one
I didn't read Kulissa.
You read Sethi.
Wait, Sethi is about dyads, bro.
No, it's not. It says, quote, that the arms control and NEC stands at the threshold that is held together by only New Star. I mean, this is certainly impacting this.
Okay, sure. The uniqueness, why are Trump and Putin why is the negotiation successful now?
Well, because Russia has negotiating leverage, they're able to cause Trump to back down.
Okay, sure.
The link is almost certainly 100 because CX spotted it to us.
Okay, back to the DA, the first one. The internal link to a hybrid war is, do you need to win regime collapse or regime instability to get hybrid war, or like, is it
Putin
just
thinks his regime is totally terminal, so he would launch hybrid escalation.
Okay, so it relies on winning, it's just an extra impact for regimes.
Yeah.
Okay, sure, that makes sense. 5 minutes, sorry. Case, double turn. I'll concede that Poseidon gives credibility for a peace deal. I'll concede that peace deal collapses the Putin regime. They can't go for the Putin decide anymore. Concede no blackmail impact. Putin would use new Trump says he fears counterforce from the U.S. and would strike first because he fears that counterforce would eliminate all other nuclear arsenals. He would put Poseidon next to the U.S. coast so that he could get an easy first strike. The internal arms racing is not dumb. They dropped the Poseidon is unique because there's no missile defense that can sufficiently prevent it. They dropped the terminal arms racing causes diads to collapse globally, which ensures escalation. It's try or die. No answers. Now concede the Enron and the other scenario are not good for them. The very true. They dropped the hacking and accident scenario from 1AC Car. They can see that Poseidon has no human on board, which means that hacking can instantly occur. An environmental accident gets misinterpreted as a first strike causing escalation and nuclear response to the U.S. and other actors. Other weapons don't dump, only ordnance is post-deployment. Theirs is 2 years old, and none of those other weapons have nuclear weapons on them. Operational, yes, they dropped. When you see evidence, Car says they've been tested, and Weicker says that NATO allies are fearing it right now, which can only happen after a test has occurred. Yes, strategic stability, internal. Putin and place it next to NATO allies, which causes them to freak out because they don't have defense, causes them to first strike Russia or call in the U.S. and have them first strike Russia. First strike Russia would cause a war. Use alone does cause station because it blows up the coast, and not the way it drops in other countries, which is existential. They're not the hacking sphere, which means that no need to win most of this. Miscalcum is relevant because suggesting placement of it next to Europe. Yes, delivery system, new test, extension above. By the way, allies still fear it, even if it's not literally operational, which means still first strike the Putin game. Putin's collapse is inevitable. The state is fragmented. Ukraine's mass violence rooted in atomized dissolution society that's multiplied religious and ethnic tensions, internal governance dysfunction. So continuing those uprising across the massive geographic rates that Poseidon preferred. They're wanting to see the response was wrong because only our opponents takes a long-term prediction. The best their cards say is that it's holding on for now, which at worst means their impact is inevitable. Plier says that other weapons are sufficient to solve, which is also their evidence in that case. There's no reason these are unique, but only the one he says the reason that's why nuclear Poseidon is key. The YAP impact, strike it. 1, AI, it wrote their card, insert GPT 0 scan. 2, link, it's dead. 3, quals, this is a business expert, not a strategist. Hybrid war is not an impact, doesn't get close to nuclear. At worst, only Poseidon use causes the escalation because it's the only one that causes the dive with the US. At worst, the negotiation solves. Since it would be favorable conditions. Russia has 6,000 other groups to solve. The link Poseidon is just the most explanatory, the uniqueness. It's broadly inevitable since he'll die and replacement is double from stagnation, who's ill health cars. Now, yeah, Central Ukraine dash rate for some nuclear Iran. Another sign of state econ growth long-term sexual inflation, 9% rate, 23% overheating, Paris state at 72 period. And trial of slide consider success as candidates. Regime change doesn't cause war. This also answers hybrid war. Close not how with the office here with sector leader more terrible, but we're under pressure could not be political culture and to be quashed. This was perhaps not broadly so country stable ability to attack underestimated indifference, but orderly transition change leader always accompanied by liberalization, not chaos. New Start DA. New Start extension is failing now. Next report no 922. New Start can be extended only once for 5 years to step by into a new treaty, take months over your treaty negotiate with cartoons to sign hard to imagine the political atmosphere. The link is backwards and it's a straight train. I would 1116 testing design came out for proposal extend treaty pressure US moves or unprecedented for state US official view. Move to state providing realize extending New Start do nothing to prevent further tests of the system push trouble further. Wait for market to discuss while on agreement. The plan builds momentum by demonstrating commitment to New Start, which is a prerequisite by 12 years by denuclearization could improve unprecedented proposal link agreement to limits on nuclear arms including Poseidon would improve the offer. This confidence in observance of New Start limits and establish venue which official discuss future steps. No degrees cascades answers to impact on crash. Simply cancel over high below LEO burn up quickly high LEO where trunk over speed or orbit GPS nav stats. Your volume is a huge number for you. Don't worry here geostats. We save seed also 1 per 100 or 1,000 can not a problem match worst case odds. Hitting less than 1 in 10,000 to lose a cast this factor. This cast less problem to be so volume still most surface collision order back less likely so velocity the orbit sooner smaller church the orbit much large speed track avoid constellation low LEO all launches include plan the orbit space war sci-fi novel 21 space war sci-fi defending comic books win more than the 70 years since V2 no military actions ever take place nuclear war has a sat system did not change no shots have been fire military system maybe war much less likely go between state church and reality only one states or race or public interchangeable but very little military political sense. If they first strike first is true then they should have already struck their evidence is months old. First strike instability is to grow because of arms racing because nobody has defensive side and thus above no attacks nor escalation covert and marching off to 19 despite decades of prophecy space remain peaceful only cops between space so pity Russia patrolling assets create deals to pressure cars recognizes north the great states receive cost of breaking this extra ability for kinetic effect deniability assault or impossible to attack a rocket not fake actually be indiscriminate unpredictable.
Impact is 100. When you see ready for impact defense should be struck. New Start collapse causes escalation in global hotspots. US, Russia, China, DPRK, and impacts in this year. Magnitude of vectors means that our impact is far larger because the risk of internal link defense is likely for an individual scenario escalating, but it's far less likely when you combine every single nuclear conflict escalating. Now, impact was dropped. They cannot go for impact defense because this is the one to see now it's on time frame. New Start is renewed this month, which we said and if it is not renewed, all of those hotspots would escalate because quote only the threat of New Start is the thing that is holding together nuclear arms control, and that that absented, all of those hotspots escalate. So the descent is so much faster than the case because testing happened 2 months ago and still nothing has escalated. Now a risk of defense to the case means you should be comfortable rating negative because the descent is functionally 100. 1AC red is the length, uniqueness, and impact. So this debate was basically over in the 1AC. Now impact is done. The only thing that we have to win here is uniqueness. Trump wants new start now. The 1AC evidence is old and it assumes that Trump has, quote, said nothing about it, which is a warrant. It says, quote, Mr. Trump has said virtually nothing, which is a warrant for why the treaty would fail in the status quo, but Trump wants new start. And when new start expires on February 5th, Trump has said it's not an agreement on expiring. Has doubled down on wanting to negotiate. The president very clear. We already have enough nuclear power proves that he's scared. Yet he's just his posture too. The threat posed by Poseidon is so great that the Senate would force the plan to pass. The court has no warrant. Just as that in the past, New START was hard to negotiate, but it's not even internally explaining why it would be delayed in the status quo. But Russia having a weapon that can cause nuclear tsunamis, destroy coastlines, and if the weapon is as big as Putin has advertised it to be, and allies are actually scared, the Senate would freak out and would immediately pass New START to constrain the treaty. The only other warrant in this card is that Russia would not be constrained by those things. But the 1AC read a piece of evidence that said that New START is maintaining arms control in the status quo. So clearly it is effective, and the Twitter cannot be arms control fails in the status quo. Now, the next piece of evidence, the next argument was no link. This is wrong because your 1AC evidence says, quote, 1AC episcopus says, quote, the unconventional threat posed by Poseidon made these sorts of Russian leverage, and I'm doing arms control reduction talks with the U.S. And Vesela says, quote, super weapons are apparent leverage in disarmament talks with the United States. Now, 1 year specificity on why Poseidon weapons are likely to miscalculate proves why they're also important for negotiation, because all the political posturing around Poseidon, the link that we read on the regime change DA, there's a huge ceremony around naming it, etc. All these things and demonstrate that is a major part of Putin's foreign policy and his attempt to negotiate the nuclear balance. Now, winning that Trump is ready for arms control now also zeroes link defense because it proves that Poseidon has not upended strategic stability enough to trigger a dispute concerning arms control, and because Trump is on board, it proves that Trump is scared enough of the Poseidon war or of the Poseidon nuclear weapons because they have no other explanation for why Trump would have 180 since before the test to after the test to now supporting the treaty. So you must assume that Poseidon weapons are prepared to do so. Now, the link term does not make any sense because the card that they've read says that Putin would need to horse trade Poseidon regulations in order for stronger arms control. The plan gets rid of those nuclear weapons, so it's no longer a form of leverage that Putin can even exercise in arms control negotiations. This card literally is terrible. It is not even good. The other part of their card after it ends, and now the link thumper card, the Adler card that says that testing disabled, it also says after it concludes that provocative public statements that a two-week explorer started nuclear weapons testing raise global concerns, but behind the scenes sides are eyeing an upcoming deadline nuclear arms control agreement which is set to expire, which proves that Poseidon is purely posturing for New START. So this is 100 now. New START feeling now answer above. Trump is on board, and it has not been zeroed, and you cannot go with this argument because 1AC said that New START solves nuclear escalation. Now, link is backwards, ancient above. Plan builds commitment by building momentum wrong because it gives away Russia's leverage, so Trump would no longer have any reason to agree to the treaty because he would have unilateral superiority over nuclear weapons and would then no longer want to sign up to the treaty, which would escalate global hotspots. No degree cascades relevant, not going for the Golden Dome impact space war. Is sci-fi not going for the Golden Dome impact? If they could have already struck answers to Golden Dome by instability from SCO arms racing is also about the Golden Dome scenario does not impact defense, but also 1EC read a card that says that strategic stability is resolved by New START, so not an argument they can go for. No attacks or escalation is about space. I forget what I said. Just go to the regime change DA. We'll concede that there's no impact to regime collapse, so no risk of a straight turn, and there wasn't one anyways. Advantage 1. They did not really concede a double turn, they actually conceded a link argument, but will concede no impact, so no relevance. Advantage 2. The problem with the 20-year is that they dropped the most important piece of evidence that we read, which is that even if it says that because allies think Poseidon is scary, this demonstrates that it has been postured, but that real nuclear threats from Russia are kept secret, and that if Russia actually intended to use nuclear weapons, actually intended to use the Poseidon, they would have kept it a secret. Think about it logically. If Russia wants to maintain secret leverage in order to win a conflict, will they tell everyone that they have that tool so they can develop responses to that tool, or will they keep it a secret and only tell people they have it when they fully need to use it in order to resolve a crisis? Obviously the latter. When I see evidence was pretty good about this, and our card literally said that the weapons that actually matter were kept a secret, so no risk that the Poseidon is actually important for strategic stability. Player says that commentators ignore the weapons already in their inventories too, so a focus on Poseidon is just recency bias because Merv and ICBMs both have the potential to strike domestically, and so Poseidons are not really unique. The one-year explanation of why it is unique is it is more dangerous, but not explain why the Poseidon being able to strike shorelines and anything from ICBMs being able to fly over entire countries and strike the U.S. homeland, and they've also conceded that it is a strategic measuring and has no operational relevance. Now, the other thing that you can see is that, quote, no claims have been verified from Putin's regime, so all of their threat posturing, etc., is wrong. The only thing that we have to answer here is hacking and accidents. All of these hacking and accidents applies equally to every other AI-powered nuclear weapon. And we've re-highlighted their card in the Thumper and 1C, which says they've also integrated AI into aerial systems. The Thumper specifically says that AI has been integrated into things like SARMAT and ICBMs, and that aerial ballistic missiles have also been modernized, which presumably implies that they've modernized with AI systems the same way they've modernized the Poseidon weapons. Now, they also do not have a reason why the Poseidon weapons are even worse. And arms control solves the case because it would tether Putin to a regime that they cannot solve. And the 1AC red card that says this for us. Now, miscalc because of counterforce is wrong. Conceded that if they have unilateral superiority, they would not be scared about counterforce. So clearly, they do not. Poseidon is not that. Threatening, nothing can stop Poseidon. Now, differential between that or ICBMs. And if AI is in charge of their nuclear arsenal, it would also deploy every single other nuclear weapon at the same time. And their cards are about submarines, not the actual news.
Miscalc ways it's fastest. They've not provided a timeline for how new start breakout, how fast new start breakout caused this war. They've just said that the treaty needs to be verified in this month, whereas we have evidence from these past few weeks that says Poseidon will instantly cause fears of miscalculated war, which instantly goes existential time period, and only go out when you have a miscalculation scenario because they could see that because they could see that environmental accidents and no human on board means that there will be accidents and it leads to hacking, which could cause misuse or causes allies to freak out and strike first. The Tunar's only response to our scenario was that AI exists in other weapons. This was not the warrant the one air provided for why Poseidon was unique. We said that there's no human on board, which is what the one air said, and it's also what Wendy Tower says, which you should read after the round. It's actually really specific to this. It says that no human on board means that accidents could occur. There's nobody to safeguard it. It also says that it causes allies to not know where the nuke is, which causes miscalculation, which means you should automatically be aft, given that the tuner said time frame outweighs and will win some link defense later. But the only response here is that Poseidon is not unique, but they answered the wrong warrant. None of the other stuff really applies. Even if it's posturing, it can still be hacked, which would cause war, and allies still fear it, which was when you see Reichel, which they conceded in the tuner, will also be relevant on Advanced 1 later. The existing weapons are relevant because ICBMs and MIRVs are still controlled by humans, but Poseidon does not have any human on board to check against things like environmental disasters, and is prone to hacking as per when you see Tower. No claims of the threat verified is relevant because it is in Russian use, it's hacking and misuse. I'm not good for the strategic stability scenario, so that's irrelevant. Arms control does not solve this scenario because it's about the weapon's existence causing hacking by rogue actors. AI, again, not our scenario that I'm good for, and I'm not good for first use. Now, Advantage 1, flag this. They draw Poseidon deletes arms control. This was the Brighto card I extended on Advantage 1. It is try or die after. They consider the Poseidon is unique. There's no missile defense systems that can raid them in, which means that which collapses arms control. Drop it collapses every dyad, which is the definition of the arms control impact they've gone for, because it means that dyads freak out. There's no check back on what India, Pakistan, Israel, North Korea, etc. develop because they all want to rush to develop new US weapons that can circumvent existing things like missile defenses because they've dropped the Poseidon is unique and that it circumvents those missile defenses. Read 1AC Brighto after round. I extended it in the 1 air sig, drop it in the tuner. So at worst, we both have risks of the arms control impact. So you should vote out on risk of the miscalculation impact, which is so much faster. It also causes allies to freak out, which the tuner didn't grapple with. They conceded our argument that allies freak out about Poseidon because it can be placed so much closer and because of the hacking and miscalc stuff. Now, the tuner did me a great favor by going for the disad. There's two arguments I'll go for. First, linked to Poseidon pressures us, which pressures the U.S. by frustrating officials into not extending New Start. Officials view it as saber rattling. It does nothing to prevent future tests of those systems. It makes Trump personally not want to discuss fallout agreements because he got annoyed. That's out with the behind the scenes stuff is relevant because we cited Trump's official posture. Posturing is relevant because Trump is angered about Putin's posturing and says that it's a bad thing. The tuner said it's terrible. It's not. Read the card after on. Other word I'll go for is uniqueness overwhelms. It's impossible to pass. The tuner said it had to be done this month. They dropped the word for Nebuchadnezzar, which says that it's impossible in the political atmosphere which describes 2/3 of the Senate. Even if Trump's on board, Republicans and Democrats are not. Tuner didn't extend reasons why the Senate cares. Go down. Good debate.